Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
So I'm realizing that the problem, one second. Some coming in, some coming out. I'm realizing that one of the problems with this new plan is that you are unconsciously conditioned to expect food after hearing those exact prayers. Like, your brain is saying, but we're at the end already. What's this guy doing up here talking? Oh, well. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
So how was your week, everyone?
It was great, kind of great.
Do I go there? How do I go there and remain a good rabbi to a proudly heterogeneous community rather than veer into being a bad pundit? But how do I not go there? If one's sense of Torah is just your modern civic politics filtered through some cherry-picked ancient verses, then I'm not sure how valuable Torah is. But if Torah never touches the news, the real lived lives of real people and real societies, then that too diminishes its value. And I'm in the most awkward of predicaments. Not only am I speaking from the bima on the day that we celebrate the bar mitzvah of the son of my boss, but this is the first week of our new Shabbat plan, a part of which is a promise to the community to offer short, concise sermons, 15 minutes and under. And I think I already used up a minute and a half. Maybe I should just filibuster a bit more and be saved by the bell. But Dr. Rothwell, if you are timing, it begins now. No, it begins now. No, it begins now. The sun rose Wednesday morning. For many in America and in this community, its light was muted, and there was a sense of palpable worry. And for many in America and in this community, its light was brighter, and there was a sense of palpable relief. And however confidently one holds one's political convictions, to deny that the previous two sentences are plainly true dips into a bit of lunacy. One of the greatest wisdoms I learn and then I try to relearn from our ancient texts and from our culture of respectful, robust, and principled argument and debate is that we are usually wrong and perhaps bordering on the narcissistic if we assume that everyone with whom we disagree is either a moron or a monster. It's almost always far more complex than that, however much it may release a dopamine rush to hold on to that simplicity. And for as long as I serve this community as its rabbi, this space will always remain open, whether the week after a fraught election or some random Shabbat in the future, for two people who read the American tea leaves from diametrically opposing stances to sit next to one another and open the same Siddur and study from the same Chumash and pledge a common loyalty to the treasure of our inherited Jewish values, even as they are certain that those very values ought to be applied in practice and in politics in completely different ways. And I hope that the greatest fears about what the next era of American civics will be like will show themselves to have been unnecessarily exaggerated. And I'd like to add that I hope that the loftiest aspirations of what good might accrue to this country and to the world as a result of this election will prove themselves to have been underestimated. To those of you in pain, I'm here to hold you. And to those of you in joy, I would hope that you would agree that what is needed more than gloating is understanding. And now I want to do what I think I do best, which is teach the Torah. And hopefully teach it in a way that sheds some light upon the individual burdens each of us carry on our shoulders today, as Jews, as citizens of this republic, as people of ethics and principles who try to live lives of duty. And I'm going to focus on two words, two short words, because it's a short sermon. The first word is not even a full word. It's a hyphenated end of the two-word phrase that gives this parsha its name. God could have commanded Abraham in one syllable, lech, go. Instead, God adds lecha, which comprises the same two letters as lech, and so it's not only conceptually redundant, it's even visually redundant as you look in the text. Now, biblical prepositions were much more flexible than modern English ones were. So this phrase can be translated as go to you, go for you, go because of you, and many more possibilities. And nearly every rabbi or teacher of Torah who's ever said anything on any verse in the Torah has said something about this particular seemingly extraneous bit. In other words, no one has any clue why the extra lech, lecha is there. Of the many commentaries I've come across, the one that speaks to me the most this week comes from Rabbi Aharon of Karlin, an 18th century Hasidic master from Lithuania. He wrote that the lecha should mean towards you, towards your truest, deepest self. Why would God have said that to Avram at this moment? And what's the lesson for us? Lest you think that the spiritual quest and fealty to God requires a full sublimation of self and a full sacrifice of self, God reinforces to Avram, go deep inside yourself. Where am I? That's where I am. The more you know you, the more you can know me, God. In other words, the central spiritual quest is unvarnished knowledge of self. And from within that investigation, the light of the divine may emerge. If you hear God calling to you today with a lech lecha, maybe the deepest call to action is to turn some of your investigation and some of your interrogation and fulmination and recrimination and exclamation about others and turn to you. Go back to you, into you. Not necessarily or only to reprimand or tisk, but just to know yourself, to ground yourself in your values and principles, and let God speak to you from that place. And about what you should say next from your truest core values. About what you should do next from your deepest, most honest principles. Because that, if anything at all, is what is most in your control. A brief synthesis of Rabbi Aharon of Karlin's wisdom might suggest that he inspired Michael Jackson. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Our dear friend and teacher, Rabbi Ari Lucas, expanded on this notion a bit as he and I were talking yesterday. He noted that some commentaries read the lecha as meaning not just to go, but to keep on going. But people might reply back in the commentary, Halo kfar yatsa. He's already departed, and he's already left his world and passed behind. Why need to reinforce that he keep going? Rabbi Lucas's read is that this is the Torah's way of saying that Abraham and we and his descendants have to keep hearing God's word nudging us to go farther away from the majority culture. Farther away, as Ethan said, from groupthink. To be truly committed to forging a unique path, not only as Jews, but as individuals within the Jewish world, each of whom has a wholly distinct worldview. Each of us is not only different from those who are not immersed in the world of Jewish values, but we're also meaningfully different from every other Jew who might be drinking from the same trough, but taking in different nutrients. It is tempting in hard times to fall back on what is known and what is safe. It is hard to chart a unique path. It feels good to circle wagons and to return to echo chambers and feel the endorphin rush of everyone's heads nodding simultaneously in agreement. There can be a compulsion, a centripetal force, to retreat into pure ideological familiarity. This is an important moment to remind ourselves, especially given the overtones of Avram's departure from Haran. Some of our ideological peers are idolaters. And you might be on a different Lech Lecha path than they are. Keep listening and cultivating your distinct pathway through this troubled moment. Our Jewish hue Your individual Torah-based shade is far more brilliant and kaleidoscopic and resplendent than the reddest red or the bluest blue. Make and live a color that could only emerge from your response to God's call of Lech Lecha. The second word I want to focus on is one we use a lot, but without really knowing its meaning. It's the word bracha. We translate it as blessing.
Blessings.
As in the thing we say when we're doing a mitzvah or before eating or drinking. Precise translations across centuries and cultures are impossible. There's simply no way of knowing to what extent the ancient person hearing the Hebrew word bracha created a similar mental picture or notion compared to what we create in our minds when we hear the word blessing, especially since we probably all have different understandings of what even the word blessing means. And at least one place, Rashi says that blessing has to do with abundance. And some people believe that the word is connected to the word berech, which means knee. For perhaps in the ancient world, you kneeled on your knees to express your sense of blessing. Whatever the translation problems are, we have to contend with the word, as it's the key concept at the end of the second verse of the Parsha, the verse that begins to describe the content of the spiritual journey that God has sent Avram on. God says, "V'escha l'goy gadol," I'll make you into a great nation. "V'agadla shemecha," I'm going to make your name great. "V'hayeh bracha," and you will be a bracha, a blessing. Even if we leave the pure translation of that word unresolved, what is most interesting to me is not what God does say to Avram here, but what God does not say. God does not say, go on this path and you will be blessed. God does not say, follow my voice and all will be well. God does not say, vote your conscience, as it were, and the road will be easy. There's going to be travail and disappointment. And because we know how the story goes, we know that to be true. Avram struggles and he suffers. He leaves his father and birth family behind to follow his principles. He nearly loses his wife to a maniacal, libidinous leader. He faces insufferable domestic strife, unclear whether he'll be able to keep his household together. He's asked to sacrifice that which is most dear to him without knowing the direct benefit that will accrue. He witnesses his two sons live entirely separate lives, coming together only at his grave. It's just not the case that Avram's reward for heeding the call of Lech Lecha is that his life will be a breeze, an uncomplicated blessing. God does not promise him ease. God does not promise him to be blessed. God obligates him to be a blessing, no matter what the headlines say that day. Rashi takes it one step further. What does it mean to be a blessing? He says it means to bless others, even and especially when it would seem easy to withhold that blessing and seem fun to curse. To be Abrahamic is to experience God telling you and telling me and all of us today and every day, this week and every week, find someone to bless. And let your very being shine the light that the world needs. That is an unimpeachable way of living, my friends. Whomever you voted for, whether this Shabbat you grieve or celebrate or are struck dumb by confusion, our Parsha commands you, demands of you, go find a part of this broken world that needs your healing. Go find a broken person that needs you as the salve. Go discover a place bereft of bracha and bring the blessing that is most needed. Albert Camus once wrote, "In the midst of hate, I found there was within me an invincible love. In the midst of tears, I found there was within me an invincible smile. In the midst of chaos, I found there was within me an invincible calm. I realized through it all that in the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer, and that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me, there's something stronger, something better, pushing right back." And so Lech Lecha. Go to it and keep at it. Go towards yourself as deep as you can probe. Find the strength that you need, that this community needs, that this nation needs, that this civilization needs, and can only get from you. No matter what happens in the voting booth, you being the bracha most lacking in this world is the greatest victory possible. It's worthy of an inauguration. And while I don't know how I feel about this line being on our currency, I know that in shul, I have no problem with it. God bless you all, and God bless America, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.